Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome along to Donington Park for the next instalment of Ginetta racing action in 2023. And we're going to kick off our very sunny early summer's afternoon of racing with the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship, their third event of the season, having raced already over Easter weekend at Donington Park at a very soggy Silverstone Grand Prix circuit a few weeks ago. And now they arrive at another former host venue for a Formula One Grand Prix at Donington Park. A beautiful day. This is really the first properly summery day that we've enjoyed this weekend. Lots of spectators here trackside to enjoy not only the good weather, but hopefully some entertaining racing to be provided over 3 races this weekend in Ginetta GT Championship. The first of those 3 races taking place early this afternoon. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box, delighted to be joined for the first time by Kai Bachin, who makes his Ginetta racing debut. Kai, great to have you here. Sure you're excited as I am about this, the Ginetta GT Championship featuring in the GTP class at least, the most powerful Ginettas we'll see on show this weekend, and they produce some decent racing so far.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing weekend here, and it's such a pleasure to have my debut here alongside you, Andy. What is going to be an amazing event here at Donington. The sun is shining on us, and I think it's such a great turnaround after such a dark and dreary Silverstone. Yes. I don't think anyone was enjoying the conditions out there, so it's nice to be back in the sunlight, back into the summer's racing here with the Ginetta GT Championship.
Yes, when I say soggy Silverstone, that doesn't really do it justice. The Saturday at Silverstone in particular was practically underwater, an awful day of weather. Cleared up a bit for the Sunday, but unfortunately the GT Championship were heavily affected by that weather on the Saturday. Luke Reed, after a dramatic race, the first race having been cancelled because of rain, the one race they did get in was won by Luke Reed, but it didn't really go entirely to plan for the championship leader. The Wolf Motorsport driver was not in the lead at turn 1, as often has been the case so far this season, and then had a bit of contact with another competitor through Maggots and Beckett's, for which he escaped punishment, but it was an unfortunate way for what promised to be an entertaining battle to come to an end. But Luke Reed, with 4 wins from 4 races so far this season, arrives at Donington definitely as the favourite and with a new look car. Those of you who have been following the championship so far this season will recognise that the brightly coloured blue and orange car, that is a new livery for Luke this weekend. He's got the pole position for this race as well within the GTP class, but as I mentioned, 2 classes of car. We've got the GTPs and then the GT5s. These are the cars that previously have competed in the GT5 Challenge. It's Ella Lloyd and Luke Garlick who make up the front row of that particular grid. Luke with a championship advantage at the moment because he beat Ella Lloyd in the race that they had at Silverstone, a race that unfortunately saw many of the GT5 cars involved in early drama. But expect some good racing from both classes. Does appear though, Kai, as if there is a gap on the grid, and it's on the front row as well. I don't spot Ruben Haig there on the outside of row 1.
No, that's a shame to see there, not joining alongside the 26 on the grid. It will be a shame to see Hayes missing out on the start of the race. Is that the number 6 there? Still in the pit lane. Seems like the car's moving, so there's no issues there in the paddock. They're going to be sending the number 6 there into the pit lane, and it looks like we're going to have a rolling start here. So maybe another formation lap, maybe getting onto the grid, or maybe even a pit lane start there for Hage.
Well, I suspect pit lane because it will take him a while. That's at the other side of the paddock down by the Melbourne Loop. So he's got to navigate across what is a very busy paddock, get into the pit lane, and by the time he's done that, the cars will likely be back around from their green flag lap. So Ruben Haig then, I suspect, will be starting from the pit lane. I'm intrigued to know why he was late. It's how they got there late or couldn't get the car fired up. Either way, he'll be hopeful that he can pick up some good points from this 5th round of the championship. The cars will line up on the grid then in the following order. We'll have Luke Reed going solo on the front row of the grid with Ruben Haig's problems that we've just been documenting, meaning he's absent from row 1. Callum Davis then will be the blue and black car starting 3rd, whilst Carl Garnett, former MX5 competitor, starts on the outside of row 2. Then it's Connor Garlick alongside Ginetta veteran Colin White on the 3rd row. Row 4 for Leona Theobald, and Sean Fleming in the SF racing car will start in 8th. Row 5 then for Ella Lloyd and Luke Garlick, so we're now into those GT5 runners, so there'll be a gap on the grid separating the 2 classes. Ella and Luke going toe-to-toe into turn 1, I'm sure. Sam Harvey, involved in that lap 1 shunt at Silverstone, will start 3rd. Good to see that car back out on the track, whilst Karim Sekat starts alongside him. The 3rd row for the GT5s sees Lexi Bell start alongside the Zentek Motorsport car of Val City. Pablo Jecquier will be at the back of the field in the race car consultant's machine, and we'll be hoping to make a little bit of progress. So as I said, GTP races dominated so far this season by Luke Reed, although he has had a habit, Kai, of making life harder for himself than he should. Didn't qualify as well as he normally would have been at Silverstone. That led to that bit of contact lap 1. had the race at Alton where he picked up a track limits penalty and only ended up hanging on by a couple of hundredths of a second. So Luke, although he's got all of these race wins, I don't think we'll be resting on his laurels just yet.
No, and even with such an extensive lead in the championship right now, 37 points is what he's got a margin back to the second place of Ruben Hage right now. Hage obviously not starting on the grid here, so that's a massive disadvantage, which he already has coming into this race. We see the drivers now coming down through the final section of corners, getting their tyres warm, their cars ready, and ready for the start of the race. I think it'll be interesting to see how Reed is going to attack this race. Obviously, he doesn't need to worry about his championship contender, Hage, being on the grid alongside him. So what is his focus? What is his mindset going into this one?
Worth pointing out that Luke Reed and Ruben Haig were covered by just under 0.2 of a second in qualifying, but actually Callum Davis was only a further 10th back, and Garnett was within 0.2 of him. He was 1,000th quicker than Connor Garlick, who was about 0.3 quicker than Colin White. So, in other words, it's not like Luke Reed now has a massive pace advantage over the cars that are lining up on the grid. He should still have a bit of a fight on his hands, and if nothing else, will have the interest of following Ruben Haig as he comes back up through the grid. Pablo Jequier, by the way, who lines up at the back of the field, he picked up 4 penalty points on his licence for a qualifying infringement, a session from which he was disqualified. So there's been drama already in the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship, whose 5th round of the season is about to get underway in the summer sunshine at Donington Park. The red lights go on, they will extinguish after quite a long hold now, and we are away and racing. Does Luke Reed make a good start from pole position? Looks as though it's decent, but Carl Garnett going with him. Callum Davis from 3rd on the grid, slipping backwards, and that means that it will likely be Colin White into 3rd. Reed holds the advantage though as they hit the brakes into the right-hander, and he will lead them down through the Craner curves. Garnett 2nd, White in 3rd, and Callum Davis there, Kai, after a disappointing start, down to 4th.
Yeah, not the start they would have been hoping for, especially with such a great jump off the line there. Now everyone making their way down the hill there through the Craner curves, down towards the old hairpin here. A great opportunity for the drivers trying to carry as much speed as possible. Donington being a very fast and flowing circuit. It's all about keeping the momentum up here in the cars. You can see there, as we see the number 95 go around, one driver already going off the circuit. Is that the number 98? That's Lexi Belk having a couple of issues there as she's making her way around the circuit, obviously being in the GT5 class. So making their way up the hill there. Reed with a brilliant start. You couldn't have asked for anything more.
No, spot on that, wasn't it? Got a good launch. It looked as though Garnett might be able to challenge him into Redgate, but that ultimately proved not to be the case. So Reed will lead them down towards the Fogarty S's for the first time, whilst Callum Davis really does seem to be struggling in the early stages, under pressure now from the 63 of Connor Garlick as they contest 4th position through the flip-flop chicane down into the braking zone at the Melbourne hairpin. One of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit. Does anybody jinx to the inside? Yes, they do. Garlick peaks to the inside there of Davis, but ultimately decided that on lap 1 of the race, that was perhaps too low a percentage move to be attempting, and so the places stay the same as they head uphill into Goddard's. Meanwhile, in the GT5s, they're 3 abreast. This is not an uncommon sight, it must be said, in GT5 racing. Lexi Belk there trying to go the long way round at the Melbourne hairpin, a move that didn't work, and quite frankly, Kai was never likely to.
No, it's very difficult to go around the outside of the Melbourne hairpin there. You want to carry as much speed as possible, and even going around the outside, you're just losing so much track turning around there. So they go through the final section, through Goddard's and back down the Wheatcroft Straight. We're on board here with Lexi Belk. She goes diving and darting down the Wheatcroft Straight here. Redgate, it's all about getting that braking done and carrying as much speed as you can into the corner. We'll come back up at the front here. Reed from Garnett, Davies, White and Garlick in 5th there. You can see the number 63 breathing down the neck of White in front, just waiting for the overtaking opportunity. White up a couple of positions from the start there. We said that he started down in 6th position, so he's up in a 4th already. And you can see the 63, Garlick, Connor Garlick, he's not going to wait around for this opportunity. As soon as he sees the gap, as soon as he sees the move open up, I'm sure he's going to go for it.
Yeah, so somewhere then Davis got himself ahead of White, and that, I'm afraid, is Ella Lloyd, isn't it, down in the gravel trap. So that is Ella Lloyd, championship contender within the GT5s. Remember, she's 2nd in the championship. She's already had a non-finish in the 3rd race at Alton Park, and sadly, Ella is going to notch up a 2nd non-finish here at Donington. That looks like the old hairpin gravel trap, and she had a decent lead, didn't she? She was 2 seconds up the road from Luke Garlick, brother of Connor Garlick, at the end of the opening lap, but now now Luke will inherit the lead. That, meanwhile, was Connor going up the inside of Colin White, so it's all changed. We've got Davis back into third, Connor Garlick up to fourth, White slipping back towards where he started, but really, Kai, not a lot of separation within these front runners.
No, it's great to see all this class so tightly packed up here at the front. I think it's actually Reed, our leading driver, who's setting up a fastest lap on that time round, is actually with the biggest margin back to any driver in behind. Hage very quickly snatching up that fastest lap. And from being a pit lane start, what a race he is having so far. He's up to 7th position already, and with the fastest lap in his pocket and the pace that he's putting down on the circuit, I would not be surprised if it's not long before he's into the top 5. Obviously, yellow flags there down at the bottom of the old hairpin. Not surprised to see as the marshal will have to try and quickly clear away the car of Lloyd, but I think that will take a while.
Yeah, we do have the option here at Donington Park to use the live snatch vehicle, so they hopefully can clear that without needing to go behind the safety car. It's only a 20-minute race, so a couple of laps behind the safety car very quickly will eat into the race distance. Well, let's see if we can figure out what happened to LOL. Bit too much speed into the old hairpin and loses the rear very early on. She tried her best to fight that, Kai, but it's such a tricky corner that you're right on the limit of adhesion to start with.
Yeah, it seemed like just trying to carry too much speed and then too hard on the brakes, managed to unsettle the rear end under braking, and then just trying to fight the car going into the corner. It's never going to go your way, especially with such a beast of so much power, 155 brake horsepower under these cars. You don't want to be fighting with them, but down the inside, there's Connor Garlick. He'll go for the move, but shut in his face there. Davies says, no, thank you very much. I'll hold on to my position, and then instantly goes on to the attack on Garnett. Will he be able to go the long way around? It's going to be a difficult one here for Garnett as he'll cover the inside line as they go down into Goddard's and just about holding on to it, but maybe on the switchback, will the 95 be able to get a good enough exit? No, not this time round, so Davies stays in third, but we know that he has to defend from the car behind and also focus on trying to get into second. Classic
Donington Park racing, this really. It is one of those real momentum circuits as Davies goes for a big dive up the inside at Redgate corner, caught Carl Garnett unawares, and now Carl, delayed on the exit, will also relinquish third place to Connor Garlick. So brilliant, positive, aggressive driving that from Davies, and he's up into second place. So in a way, it's back to where he started now. Should have been third on the grid. It became essentially second with Ruben Haig's dramas pre-race. And the trouble is that he's probably 2.5 seconds now down the road from Luke Reed already. Colin White now trying to take advantage of Carl Garnett, I suspect, being knocked a little bit out of his rhythm, because Carl, I don't think, expected that.
No, it wasn't one of those overtakes that you would have been waiting for and you would have been expecting. It was one of those dash moves as soon as you saw the gap open up down the inside. Talking about down the inside, has a little luck and a little too close for comfort there as White tries to go for the move on Garnett, but now has a bad run on the exit. We'll have to go on the defensive, but just about holding on to it right now is going to be Garnett. You can see just holding on, currently third in the championship standings as Carl Garnett, fourth on the track right now, as he's just trying to find his way around. You can see going down that back straight there. There's the number 71. That's the leader in the GT5 class. That's going to be Luke Garlick, obviously brother of Carl Garlick, as you mentioned earlier. So just going around the circuit right now. There's the confirmation. First in class, GT5 Pro is the number 71 of Luke Garlick.
Yeah, twice a winner already in the GT5 Pro class, as was Ella Lloyd coming into this weekend. The difference being that Ella, as I said, had that non-finish at Alton Park in what became the first race that Luke Garlick won in 2023. And he's now on a bit of a roll. Won again at Silverstone. Looks likely to do so again here because he's 5.5 seconds clear of Sam Harvey, who quite frankly will be happy just to be on the grid. That car was an absolute wreck after the shunt that he had at Silverstone, which was not really anything to do with him. He was trying to avoid a car that had spun further up the road, and sadly 2 or 3 of them collecting each other in the ensuing melee. So good to see Sam back and running in second place. Third place in the class is Karim Sekat in the number 10. So this is the fight for third in GT5, and Karim there just locking up the brakes slightly into the Goddard's hairpin. That means that Balsidou in the number 16 will move to challenge, and in fact Balsidou's gone through, so that was a costly little error there from Karim Sekat, cost him third position, and Balsidou, who is the AM class leader within the GT5s, manages to move through. Pablo Jequier there, the number 21 car at the back of that group, is the second of the AM drivers, looking a bit more competitive this weekend in the Race Car Consultants prepared machine, and this looks like a pretty close battle within the GT5 contingent. Back to the GTPs though, and Carl Garlick perhaps settling himself now a bit after losing those couple of places a lap ago. I would suggest maybe Kai just gapping himself slightly from Colin White again.
Yeah, you can see just trying to pull the gap there. He's managed to do so, but battling in the background there, as you can see the single digit there of the number 8 going for the move. Sorry, no, that's Haig going for the move there on Theobald. Looks like he'll be able to get that one done, but they're still fighting on the exit here. As Theobald tries to go back down the inside into Goddard, and it looks like he'll manage to get that move done. So Haig, he's not going to give it up easily, though, as he tries to hold it around the outside. It was never going to work, though. He's going to have to surrender for now. But now defending on the inside there, you can see Theobald just about holding on to it for now. Will Haig dive to the inside? Yes, he will, as he goes for the move, second in the championship, but he still can't get it. Late on the brakes there is the number 8, as he just about holds on to it going into the first corner.
Yeah, Leona Theobald really not moving aside at all here for Ruben Haig, is she? This is brilliant racing. Novice cross on the back of Leona's car, but you wouldn't know that she was a relative racing rookie because Ruben Haig is really struggling to find a way past. Although Leona, no, what have I done? Around she goes at the old hairpin and backs it off onto the grass. Leona Theobald, we were saying such lovely things about you, but sadly a bit of a mistake under pressure there at the bottom of the hill, and again showing just how close to the edge you have to be through that corner, especially when you're driving in your mirrors a little bit. Luckily, looks as though she's got the car fired up and she'll be able to continue, but that's a real shame. That was a great battle, Kai.
No, it really was. It was proving out to be a great battle between the two of the drivers. Leona Theobald, though, just caving under the pressure and rotating that car around. Reed really committing to the curbs through the chicane there as they now make their way down towards the back hairpin. Number 26 leading the way, but Davies is picking on the burners and kicking it up, as 1.4 seconds is now only the gap between the top two. A new fastest lap on that previous route round. You can see, as you said, the number stickers on the back of that car for the number 95, but the pace and the experience that he's showing in his racecraft and what he's putting down on the circuit right now, you wouldn't have expected it at all.
No, well, that previous lap for Davis was 3/4 of a second faster than Luke Reed. Brought the gap down. I suspect it might creep back up again. No, it stays about the same, actually. Comes down by a couple of hundredths or so. So Luke Reed is doing well here to hang on, and you can understand why he is pushing quite so hard. Needs to be mindful of those pesky track limits regulations, though, because he's already been caught out by that once this season, and it very nearly cost him a win. Unlike Alton Park, though, he doesn't have 10 seconds in his back pocket on which to fall back on should he get a penalty. So Reed needs to be a bit cautious with that one. Carl Garnett and Colin White, meanwhile, debating 4th place, because Colin White would quite like to find a way through if at all possible. And of course, they've got Ruben Haig now looming ever larger in their mirrors. Way past the spinning Leona Theobald a lap ago. White up alongside through Schwant's curve. That's the outside for McLean's, though. And Carl Garnett is not going to make this easy. White goes right around the outside, though. Brilliant racing and brilliant racing respect shown by both to avoid contact for now as they head side by side again into Coppice Corner. Garnett still can't quite hang on. White goes around the outside at 2 consecutive corners there, Kai, to take the place.
Wow, what a move there. And you've got to watch out in the background here for Haig, as he's getting involved in the battle as well. He's going to go to the inside, and it looks like that'll be a very easy move completed under braking there. So Haig now gets himself up in a 4th position as Callum Garlick, and no one is safe here from the number 6.
And a big dive again there from Conor Garlick up the inside into the Melbourne hairpin. Now, my fear here for Callum Davis is that whilst I think he's got the pace to go after Luke Reed, he's perhaps getting a tad distracted now, understandably so, by Carl Garnett sort of swiping away at him behind. They come out of Goddard's once again. This is the 7th lap of the race being completed. The race leader does a 1:37.1. It's a 36.9 from Davis. He is still lapping quicker than the race leader, but Conor Garlick was even quicker again, a further 10th faster than Callum Davis on that time. So those top 3 are really concertinaing together whilst this battle continues to rage on behind them for 4th.
Yeah, we're having a look here, and that's Ruben Haig in 5th position, trying to chase down the back of White. Number 78 just about holding on to it right now. Colin White, it's all focused ahead. He doesn't need to be driving in his mirrors right now. With only 8 minutes left on circuit, he just needs to focus on the times that he's putting down right now and focusing on what he's able to do on the circuit as all. A bit of an issue there. That looks like it might be a mechanical failure with the suspension or the rear end of the car there for the number 16.
That's Balsidou, who was leading the AM class. He was leading it anyway, but was definitely going to win if he got to the flag, because somewhere Pablo Jequier has retired to the pit lane, and off at McLean's, perhaps linked to that, is Karim Sekat. Those two were battling for 3rd place overall within the GT5 element of the race. And, well, Karim stomps away through the gravel, looks over his shoulder in disgust. Oh, and that's around goes Conor Garlick now. Conor Garlick from 3rd within the GTP class has lost it down at the Fogarty S's. So we've got cars throwing themselves at the scenery left, right and centre. One car limping back to the pits with damage, one stuck in the gravel at McLean's, and this one thankfully getting going at the chicane, but having deposited a lot of gravel all over the racing line.
Well, it seems after we've made our way past the halfway stage in this race, everything's gone wrong for all the drivers out there on the circuit. As you said, cars going off left and right here, but we're focused on the battle for fourth right now. As you can see, Colin White just about fending off his position for the time being. This is still the battle for fourth. Haig all the way from the pit lane up to the top 5 so far. It's been an outstanding race for him. It'll be amazing going on to the straights here. Sorry, no, he's in 4th position right now, obviously due to the issue that Garlic had out on the circuit. But as I was saying, Haig won't be happy with the result, as of course he was supposed to be starting in 2nd position. He would have been hoping for higher up, but you can't deny it's been an outstanding drive from the pit lane to get himself even into the position that he is right now.
It is a little fortunate perhaps with others hitting dramas, but he's driven well too to pick his way through the order and could still get on the podium by the checkered flag, because that is still 6¼ minutes away. And Ruben Haig, I do think, is quicker than Colin White, but as we've seen, Colin not afraid to get his elbows out. He was a short oval racer back in the day, and that does rather teach you how to not only overtake, but defend a position successfully too. The school of hard knocks, some call it. The spin for Conor Garlic down at the chicane. And again, it looked like, well, it's easy for me to say, Kai, that he took too much speed into the corner, but I have to wonder whether the relatively high track temperature is playing a part in this as well.
Yeah, obviously the tyres all sticking to the surface, so drivers may be getting a little bit too confident with how much speed they can carry into the corners themselves. And you can see there, one of the GT5 cars just getting in the way a little bit there, as our G56 GT Pro cars will make their way through on the circuit. As you can see, the number 6 now under a lot of pressure from Garnett. That's closed them out. Garnett had a little look up the inside going into the hairpin there, but will now lose a bit of time as they go down towards Goddard's. That's actually opened up the gap between Colin White and Haig. So Haig will have a bit more work to do if he wants to get himself back into that battle for 3rd. Yeah, opens up the gap between 3rd and 4th. Does not improve Ruben Haig's mood either in a race that he will feel he could have won. I think he will have really fancied his chances starting alongside Luke Reed at the front of the field. We saw Luke got a decent start, but if Ruben had been there on the front row, they've been able to beat him into Redgate, but it matters little. He had to start from the pit lane, and that means that he's in this situation he's in, digging himself out of a hole and trying to score as many points as he can. Remember, he arrived here already getting on for 40 points adrift of Luke Reed in the championship, and that gap is only going to grow if things stay as they are now. Luke Reed leads them by 1¼ seconds over Callum Davis 2nd, 3rd place Colin White, 4th Ruben Haig. That's the battle you're watching right now as they make their way through McLean's, whilst Luke Garlic is, well, dominating now in the GT5s, partly because he's sort of the last man standing in a way who hasn't had a drama, but he will be very, very pleased to pick up a race victory. Yeah, Luke Garlic has been great for him right now, as he's, as you said, the number 71. No issues around him. He's just been staying out of trouble, which is great to see. And that's all that you really have to do. If everyone else is struggling around you, just keep your car in one piece. You can't finish first if you don't cross the line in the first place. As we're looking at this battle once again, Haig lost a bit of time in the first place, but he's now straight back on the battle once again. White goes defensive there, going down into the hairpin. That means that it just opens up more of an opportunity coming out of the Melbourne hairpin as they make their way down towards Goddard's. Haig, will he look to the inside or will he stay tucked in? It looks like he's not going to think about going for the move just now. Very late on the brakes there. You can see a lot more heavier on the brakes there than Colin White going into the Goddards, and down now. Now is going to be the Wheatcroft straight, maybe into the first corner. We've seen him try it once, but he's a little bit too far back this time round. Yeah, didn't get the exit from Goddard's that he needed, really. Perhaps because he had a half look up the inside at Goddard's. That compromised his exit speed, and it meant that he was then too far adrift of Colin to have that lunge into Redgate that, in fairness, he attempted earlier on. I think it was on Carl Garnett, and that didn't work either. So Ruben's strength, perhaps not that part of the circuit. Of course, the cars being identical, albeit prepared by different teams, means that the drivers really have to make the difference out there. And certain drivers perhaps excelling in the fast-flowing sequences of corners at Donington. Others maybe preferring that tight technical final sector, and perhaps no great coincidence that it is the ex-short oval racer Colin White who's getting out of those tight hairpins really well, managing the throttle application and finding the traction onto the pit straight. He's been reeled in again now, though, by Ruben Haig, who is not going to give up without a fight. 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go, and Ruben Haig in the slipstream down towards the chicane, but maybe now, Kai, heading into that part of the circuit where White has the edge. Yeah, White looking very strong through this section here as they make their way through the S's. As not getting the exit you would have been hoping for, just taking a little bit too much curb. And you can see alongside right now, Haig's going to go diving down the inside. Now we just need to keep it tight to the apex and park it off there from the 78. Lets him run out wide. Haig beautifully made that move. Now he's on the inside line. He'll have to go defensive going down into Goddard. He needs to make sure that he gets a good exit off this corner though. He'll definitely make it on the braking into the corner. But on the exit, who's it going to be? Who comes out on top? It's still going to be Haig. Colin White just not getting the exit he would have hoped for, but still glued to the inside white line right now is Haig as they go diving down into turn 1. And on the inside line, on the brakes, you can see pretty even between the two of them. Carrying quite a bit more speed is Colin White. He's going to fight it all the way as they now go down the hill and still side by side. What a race this is between the two of them.
Fantastic stuff. Colin White knows no fear. There's contact through the crater curves. He loses a wing mirror. Haig nearly loses control completely and carries way too much speed into the old hairpin. Did he keep it on the track? Somehow he did, but that was a fantastic example of great side-by-side racing through a sequence of corners at which it's supposed to be near impossible to do so. Certainly in cars of this sort of performance. They're bringing Carl Garnett back into this fight as well now, so 3rd, 4th and 5th places on your screen, and still Haig doesn't look comfortable in front. He's defending into Coppice. Now, it only looked like a little side-to-side bit of contact there, Kai, but that is the kind of knock that can sometimes, you know, knock the suspension out, knock the tracking, knock the steering out. And it does look, doesn't it, like Haig may be wounded. He's slowed down the back straight, and White will try and go right round the outside. Not here, Colin, surely. And he has to bail out.
No, and if it doesn't damage the car, it might definitely also damage obviously the integrity and the confidence of the driver as they're going down. You can see that's still Colin White who's missing a wing mirror going down into the corner. Now he's under a lot of pressure from Garnett in behind. Garnett in 5th after trying to go around the outside of the S's, which was never going to work. Loses out on a lot of time to Haig. Haig a lot more comfortable in the positions he's in right now.
That lead gap, by the way, is down to half a second. Sorry to cut across you there, Kai, but all of a sudden, Callum Davis, now that he's not watching his mirrors to see what Conor Garlick is doing, has closed right in on Luke Reed. Here is the fight. We're beginning the final lap of the race, disappointingly, because it's been a great 20 minutes of Ginetta GT Championship action. And it's not over yet. Callum Davis, has he got an answer here for the runaway championship leader, Luke Reed, who at the wheel of his newly reliveried number 26 car is looking to claim his 5th race victory from 5 races so far this season. Callum Davis, meanwhile, has had a podium, I seem to recall. Yes, he's had 4 third-place finishes, but has yet to finish better than 3rd. There is your GT5 leader, that's Luke Garlick, about to go a lap down to the GTP battlers. This could get interesting.
Yeah, so with a back marker now coming into the way of Reed and Davis, this could close in the battle even more. Currently 8/10 of the second is separating most of the 2 drivers out in front right now. Davis definitely the faster of the 2 by nearly 5/10 of a second on that previous lap. They go down towards the hairpin here. You can see, as we're looking at Luke Garlick, is he going to get in the way or is he going to get out of the way of these 2 leaders? It looks like he'll do the second of those options as he pulls to the inside, letting Reed and Davis pass. Davis maybe not so much as he'll try and go the long way round. And we always knew it was going to happen. The back marker getting in the way of these 2 battling, and across the line, Reed from start to finish. What a race it was from him.
But again, didn't make it easy for himself. That's really been the theme of his season, hasn't it? Luke Reed, though, does win his 5th race on the bounce, with Callum Davis 2nd, and Ruben Haig is going to come through in 3rd, having got the better of Colin White in that ding-dong battle with a lap or so to go. Carl Garnett comes home in 5th, whilst a very disappointed Conor Garlick will be 6th. He was already being warned about track limits, then he had to spin and has essentially had to limp home in 6th place. I suspect Sean Fleming and Leona Theobald will be next, and Luke Garlick has already claimed the checkered flag, as we saw, as the GT5 winner. Sam Harvey 2nd, whilst Lexi Belkin 3rd, has been given a time penalty for track limits. It makes not the slightest bit of difference, though, because she was the last car running, with Balsidou, Karim Sekat, Pablo Jequier and Ella Lloyd, all having various dramas, either of a mechanical or an off on the track. So it was a bit of a race of attrition, really, in those GT5s. Of the 7 starters, we got 3 of them only to the flag. But Luke Reed comes home victorious after what was, when all is said and done, Kai, a very entertaining race.
Yeah, a very energetic and action-packed and A few highs and lows for many of the drivers here in the Ginetta GT Championship, but what a race it was to start off the weekend. If this one's anything to go by, the rest of the day I'm definitely looking forward to.
And the rest of the weekend indeed, because they've got two races still to come this weekend, both of them tomorrow, one at 11:40, and then they'll round out our Donington action at about 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So first race for the weekend done. Spectators, I think, will be satisfied with what they've seen there. Certainly plenty of action, and Donington Park, one of the best places actually to come and spectate if you are a British motorsport fan, especially when the weather's nice like this. The ample space on the spectator banking giving you really good views of one of the true drivers' favourite circuits in the country. Luke Reed's certainly a fan. He's won his 5th race of the season here at Donington with Callum Davis in the end, nearly a second behind, but was charging at the end. Ruben Haig 3rd from the pit lane, not a bad recovery drive, but he would have been hoping for more. Colin White 4th ahead of Carl Garnett and Connor Garlick, who had that spin at the chicane. Sean Fleming was 7th. Leona Theobald had a rotation as well, whilst Luke Garlick in the Zentek Motorsport car actually heads a Zentek 1-2 in the GT5s, with Sam Harvey, I'm sure, delighted with 2nd place after how awfully his Silverstone weekend went. Lexi Belk was 3rd despite the track limits penalty, whilst Balsidu, Karim Sekat, Pablo Jecke and Ella Lloyd all failed to make it to the flag. So championship-wise then, Reed extending his lead within the GTPs. Luke Garlick will do the same in the GT5 challenge. He was 24 points clear of Ella Lloyd, while Sam Harvey was a further 16 behind, so we'll likely now move into 2nd place in the championship, albeit we'll have dropped scores to deal with as we get later into the season, which, as commentators, we love because it makes our lives a tad complicated. Anyway, highlights of what was a very entertaining first race of the weekend for the Protyre Motorsport Ginetta GT Championship, which saw Luke Reed start alone on the front row after Ruben Haig, for reasons unknown, didn't make it to the grid. He had to start from the pit lane, whilst Carl Garnett and Colin White both moved ahead of Callum Davis into the early podium positions. In the GT5s, Ella Lloyd seized the early advantage and looked good to claim a runaway GT5 class victory. GT5 category saw some good 3-wide racing in the early stages, although Balsidu involved in that battle. Likewise, Pablo Jecke would both fail to finish. So too would Ella Lloyd, running away with the race lead, but looped it down at the old hairpin, and she was out in the gravel trap. A brilliant battle for 2nd place in the GTP class saw Callum Davis make a lovely move on the inside at Redgate on Carl Garnett, and immediately he set after the race leader. Action was fast and furious, particularly for Leona Theobald, who carried a bit too much speed over the curb through the old hairpin and had a rotation into the gravel, from which thankfully she was able to rejoin. The battle between Colin White and Carl Garnett was one for the ages. Colin White going right round the outside at McLean's corner and through Copper's corner as well to get the better of the XMX5 racer, with some brilliant racecraft shown by both. That brought Ruben Haig into play, and Haig would eventually get onto the podium, helped slightly by this spin for Connor Garlick going into the Fogarty S's. Again, no damage done, lots of gravel dragged onto the circuit, and Connor found himself at the back of the field. Contact through the crane of curves between Colin White and Ruben Haig. Eventually, Haig was able to get the better of Colin in the fight for the bottom step of the podium, but it was Luke Reed who, despite a late challenge from Callum Davis, was able to hang on to claim his 5th victory of the season. Luke Garlick victorious in the GT5 category in their first of 3 races here this weekend at Donington Park.